Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I am Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi gets a festive send-off from Kuala Lumpur after a successful two-day visit where he strengthened ties in talks with his Malaysian counterpart Anwar Ibrahim. India and Malaysia exchange 11 pacts, agree to elevate ties in defence, security, semiconductors, digital economy, trade, manufacturing, tourism, among others. The US gives a June deadline to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict, warns pressure on both sides to meet and find solution. Meanwhile, Volodymyr Zelensky accuses Moscow of continuing to attack Ukraine's power facilities. And Japanese voters cast their ballot trudging through snow on Sunday in snap polls forecast to hand Prime Minister Takaichi Sanae a resounding victory. Parts of the country receive heavy dumps which could hit turnout. First up, after concluding a successful visit to Malaysia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has plane for New Delhi, and during his two-day visit to the Southeast Asian nation, Prime Minister Modi held wide-ranging talks with his Malaysian counterpart Anwar Ibrahim. Both the leaders highlighted a joint intent to deepen cooperation across security, trade, technology, defence, people-to-people ties as well. India and Malaysia have taken several steps on Sunday to further their comprehensive strategic partnership on day 2 of Prime Minister Modi's KL visit. Formal talks were followed by the exchange of several memorandums of understanding or MOUs and other documents, including on security cooperation, UN peacekeeping, semiconductors, health and medicine, disaster management, combating corruption, audio-visual co-production, vocational education, and social security for Indian workers. In an important step, Prime Minister Modi also announced a dedicated Tiruvalluvar Centre at the University Malaya, as well as institution of Tiruvalluvar scholarships. The centre and the scholarships will act as catalysts in enhancing the propagation of teachings of Tiruvalluvar and strengthening people-to-people ties. Prime Minister Modi also announced the opening of India's first consulate in Malaysia to further strengthen bilateral relations and people-to-people ties. As part of the bilateral overall connectivity initiatives, NIPL and PayNet of Malaysia will collaborate to establish bilateral payment linkages, including through UPI. This will enhance ease of doing business and provide seamless, low-cost remittance and payment solutions for tourists, students and businesses. Malaysia completed all procedures for joining the International Big Cat Alliance as well. The report of the 10th India-Malaysia CEO Forum was also presented to both the leaders. And addressing the media jointly, Prime Minister Modi said that Malaysia is the first nation that he is paying a visit to in 2026. He highlighted the close bond between the two nations, describing it as a very special relationship, and reaffirmed the commitment of both the sides to broaden engagement across multiple sectors.
सिक्योरिटी के क्षेत्र में हम काउंटर टेररिज्म, इंटेलिजेंस शेयरिंग और मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी में सहयोग मजबूत करेंगे। हम रक्षा सहयोग को भी और व्यापक बनाएंगे। एआई और डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजीज के साथ-साथ हम सेमीकंडक्टर, हेल्थ और फूड सिक्योरिटी में साझेदारी को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। आज आयोजित सीईओ फोरम ने ट्रेड और इन्वेस्टमेंट के नए अवसर खोले हैं। हम स्ट्रेटेजिक ट्रस्ट से इकोनॉमिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का रास्ता बनाएंगे।
The Prime Minister also stressed on strong cultural ties and the importance of Indo-Pacific and reiterated India's commitment to peace and stability in the region.
भारत और मलेशिया को तमिल भाषा के प्रति साझा प्रेम भी जोड़ता है। मलेशिया में तमिल की मजबूत और जीवंत उपस्थिति शिक्षा, मीडिया और सांस्कृतिक जीवन में दिखाई देती है। मुझे भरोसा है कि आज के ऑडियो विजुअल एग्रीमेंट से फिल्म और संगीत, विशेष रूप से तमिल फिल्में, हमारे दिलों को और पास लाएगी। हम अपने युवाओं के बीच यूनिवर्सिटी एक्सचेंज, स्टार्टअप कनेक्ट और स्किल डेवलपमेंट के अवसर भी बढ़ा रहे हैं। हमारे बढ़ते संबंधों को सपोर्ट करने के लिए हम मलेशिया में नया कॉन्सुलेट भी खोलने जा रहे हैं। फ्रेंड्स, इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र के विश्व की ग्रोथ इंजन के रूप में ये उभर रहा है। हम आसियान के साथ पूरे इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र में विकास, शांति और स्थिरता के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है।
And Prime Minister Modi also reiterated India's stand against terrorism and called for reforming global institutions to address global uncertainties.
अस्थिरता के इस माहौल में भारत और मलेशिया की बढ़ती मित्रता दोनों देशों के लिए अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। हमारा साझा मत है कि आज के चैलेंजेस का समाधान करने के लिए ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस का रिफॉर्म बहुत जरूरी है। हम शांति के सभी प्रयासों का समर्थन करते रहेंगे और आतंकवाद पर हमारा संदेश स्पष्ट है। नो डबल स्टैंडर्ड्स, नो कॉम्प्रोमाइज। एक्सेलेंसी, भारत मलेशिया संबंधों के प्रति आपकी प्रतिबद्धता का हम सराहना करते हैं। आइए हम साथ मिलकर प्रॉस्परस मलेशिया का आपका सपना और विकसित भारत के हमारे संकल्प को साकार करें।
For his part, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim lauded Prime Minister Modi's peace efforts at global front and said that exchanges with Prime Minister Modi are not in a diplomatic format, rather it's an exchange between friends. Listen in.
Mr. Modi, it is not just normal pious platitudes and diplomatic exchanges. It is an exchange between true friends, full of trust and understanding. And therefore, I must also take this opportunity to express my regards and thanks to him for his firm commitment to support all peace efforts throughout the world, be it in Ukraine, Russia, or in the case of the Middle East, particularly in Gaza. His commitment to support the peace process is unequivocal. And I must therefore express my appreciation. And as a sign of our good relations, I immediately have agreed to support the decision of the government of India to open a consulate of India in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah.
And the Malaysian leader also said that India is growing by leaps and bounds and Malaysia wants to increase its trade with India.
India is growing by leaps and bounds. It's one spectacular rise in the international economic and trade scene, and therefore Malaysia in the ASEAN context. It would certainly benefit immensely if we could secure more ways and opportunities to collaborate with India, to extending beyond the $18.59 billion that we achieved in 2025.
And earlier, Prime Minister Modi, as well as his Malaysian counterpart Anwar Ibrahim, held delegation-level talks in Putrajaya. The leaders reviewed the entire spectrum of bilateral relations and agreed to further strengthen and deepen comprehensive strategic partnership. Prime Minister Modi thanked his counterpart for the warm welcome. He also stressed that both nations need to utilize their full potential.
आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई में मित्र देशों का साथ बहुत मायने रखता है। एक तरह से एक्सेलेंसी हमारा दृढ़ विश्वास है कि भारत और मलेशिया की समृद्धि एक दूसरे से जुड़ी हुई है। वैश्विक अस्थिरता के इस वातावरण में भारत और मलेशिया दो मैरीटाइम नेबर उसको अपने संबंधों की पूरी क्षमता का उपयोग करना जरूरी है। मेरी आज की यात्रा का मूल संदेश एकदम स्पष्ट है कि भारत मलेशिया के साथ मिलकर हमारे संबंधों को नए स्तर पर ले जाना चाहता है और सहयोग के हर क्षेत्र में विस्तार और प्रगाढ़ता लाना चाहता है।
And the Malaysian PM said that India and Malaysia share deep connected ties from centuries, and both nations will work on strengthening these ties further.
We have established excellent relations, and I'm proud to say thank you again, because in the last 2 years it has surpassed the normal traditional relationship. Thanks to you and the team. And we have discussed privately too some of the issues of concern, which I think need to be elaborated by our team. But the principle is important, that we consider India as a great friendly nation of ours, close to Malaysia, culturally, and of course now geopolitics. And we will expect more collaboration in all fields.
And briefing the media in Kuala Lumpur, the Ministry of External Affairs Secretary East P. Kumaran said that Prime Minister Modi and Malaysian PM Anwar Ibrahim reviewed the entire spectrum of India-Malaysia relations during the delegation-level talks. He said the two leaders agreed to further strengthen and deepen India-Malaysia comprehensive strategic partnership.
Prime Minister was received by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim at Perdana Putra complex and was accorded an official welcome ceremony. The leaders thereafter convened for bilateral discussions, both in restricted and delegation level formats, at Seri Perdana, the official residence of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. The two Prime Ministers reviewed bilateral cooperation across the full spectrum of our partnership, including trade, investments, defense, security, semiconductors, digital technologies, financial technologies, fintech, renewable energy, education, healthcare, culture, tourism, and people-to-people exchanges.
MEA Secretary East also informed that several important bilateral documents, including on security cooperation, UN peacekeeping, semiconductors, health and medicine, combating corruption, vocational education and social security for Indian workers, were exchanged.
Exchange of bilateral agreements and MOUs. These include exchange of notes on cooperation in the area of semiconductors, health and medicine, security, and technical and vocational education. In addition, the MOU between Malaysia's Anti-Corruption Commission and India's Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, on combating and preventing corruption was signed. We also had an MOU on cooperation in the field of disaster management, a memorandum of cooperation between Employees State Insurance Corporation, ESIC, in India, and per queso in Malaysia on social security. And we also had an agreement on audiovisual cooperation, all of which were exchanged. The agreement between NIPM and PayNet on cross-border QR-based merchant payments, and the MOU between University of Cyberjaya and the Institute of Training and Research in Ayurveda, Ministry of Ayush, India, on academic collaboration.
In another important step, Prime Minister Modi announced a dedicated Tiruvalluvar Centre at the University Malaya, as well as an institution of Tiruvalluvar scholarships.
Setting up of a dedicated Tiruvalluvar Centre at University Malaya. Prime Minister also announced Tiruvalluvar scholarships for Malaysian scholars, with the objective of further strengthening our engagement and delivery of services to the Indian community. The Prime Minister has also announced the establishment of a Consulate General in Malaysia.
Seychelles President Dr. Patrick Hermione, who's on a 5-day visit to India, arrived in New Delhi on Sunday. Upon arrival, President Hermione was warmly received by India's Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare, Anupriya Patel, at the airport and was accorded a ceremonial welcome. During his visit to India, President Hermione will meet President Draupadi Murmu and hold discussions with Prime Minister Modi on bilateral, regional and international issues of mutual interest. The visit of the Seychelles' president coincides with the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Seychelles. Earlier, the visiting Seychelles President, Dr. Hermione, called on Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis in Mumbai. Now, Seychelles Minister for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Barry Foray, and Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Trade and Investment, Pierre Laporte, were also present during the meeting. India's Home Minister Amit Shah is currently on a 3-day visit to Chhattisgarh. The Home Minister has begun a high-level review meeting to assess the situation of left-wing extremism. During the meeting, the situation in Naxal-affected areas of Chhattisgarh, Telangana, Maharashtra and Odisha is also being discussed. The progress of ongoing operations and intelligence input is also being reviewed. Senior officials from Central Armed Police Forces, state police and intelligence agencies are participating in the meeting. It's being claimed that this review will lead to intensified anti-Naxal operations. After the review meeting, Union Home Minister is set to participate in a national conclave. The visit is considered significant as the centre has set the 31st of March this year as a deadline to eliminate Naxalism. The deadline was announced by Amit Shah during his previous visit to the state. All right, we're taking a quick break at this point. There's more to follow of the latest right here on DD India. Keep watching.
Food systems contribute to a third of global planet warming emission. In today's episode, let's take a look at what happens when food systems stop working for everyone.
After Hatibondo arrived, we discussed as a village the challenge that we were facing. And we came to the conclusion that we should sow some crops, especially for the elephants.
The Meramo Cafe is basically promoting the circular economy. So there's not much transportation involved in that process. So this is one way that we are reducing the carbon emission from that point of view.
He's probably laughing because despite the fact that they're cleaning up other people's problems for free, it seems like nobody here actually wants them to be doing it.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, in the latest update on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, the United States wants Ukraine and Russia to end their nearly 4-year-long conflict by June and has offered to host talks between the two sides in Florida next week. In a nightly video address, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Washington had proposed talks in Miami in a week and that Kyiv has agreed to be there. He has also accused Russia of overnight strikes on Ukrainian energy facilities, saying Moscow must be deprived of the ability to use the cold winter weather as leverage against Kyiv. This week's talks in Abu Dhabi concluded without a major breakthrough, but Russia and Ukraine agreed to exchange 157 prisoners of war each, resuming such swaps after a 5-month pause.
The Russian struck, among other things, at facilities on which the operation of nuclear power plant depends. And this is a danger for Ukraine, for our entire region and for Europe. Today, the units of our Ukrainian nuclear power plant reduced generation. One unit automatically shut down. There were more than 400 Russian drones and a significant part of them were Shahed. There were also almost 40 missiles of various types. Ukrainian soldiers managed to shoot down a significant part, but not all of them.
400 російських дронів і значна частина.
And US President Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are set to meet on Wednesday in Washington, D.C. to discuss negotiations with Iran. In a statement, Netanyahu's office said that he believes any negotiation must include limitations on ballistic missiles and a halting of the support for the Iranian axis. Wednesday's meeting will mark the 6th between the two leaders since Trump took office a year ago. The US and Israel have repeatedly warned Iran that they would strike again if Tehran pressed ahead with its enrichment and ballistic missile programs. Iran and the US held negotiations in Oman on Friday, and Trump later said that talks would resume early next week. However, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has also hoped that talks with the United States would resume soon, while reiterating Tehran's red lines. He also warned that Tehran would target US bases in the region if the US attacks Iranian territory. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner visited the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea on Saturday after completing a round of talks with Iran. The aircraft carrier is part of the Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, which is the most part of a US military buildup in West Asia following a violent crackdown against anti-government demonstrations last month, the deadliest domestic unrest in Iran since its 1979 revolution. After the visit, Witkoff wrote on X that he, Kushner and Cooper met with the brave sailors and Marines aboard USS Abraham Lincoln, her strike group and carrier Air Wing 9, who've been upholding President Trump's message of peace through strength. Indigenous leaders and community members in the U.S. city of Minneapolis held a memorial to honor people who died during federal immigration enforcement operations. People gathered in Minneapolis on Saturday for a memorial ceremony called Waku Kisu in remembrance and witness to Powderhorn Park. The event honored the lives of Renee Good and Alex Petty, who were shot during federal immigration enforcement operations. Emotional letters were read aloud, urging people to remember not only Renee and Alex, but also others affected by immigration actions whose stories remain untold. The memorial featured community singing and a poem by Minneapolis poet laureate Junaudo Petrus. An attendee reflected on loss and solidarity. Now, Japanese people voted on Sunday in a snap election expected to hand Prime Minister Takaichi Senai a resounding victory. Opinion polls indicate that Takaichi's Liberal Democratic Party, which has governed Japan almost uninterrupted for decades in a track to comfortably surpass the 233-seat threshold needed for a majority in the 465-member chamber. Pollsters say the LDP and its coalition partner could even capture as many as 310 seats, enough for a commanding two-thirds supermajority, though they caution that undecided voters and wintry weather could still influence turnout and the final results. This would be the best result for the LDP since 2017, when Takaichi's mentor, the late ex-premier Shinzo Abe, received a similar result. Voting stations were due to close at 8 p.m. local time, which is 11 GMT, with media predictions based on partial results expected very soon. Meanwhile, Bangladesh's former Water Resources Minister and senior Awami League leader Ramesh Chandra Sen has died at the age of 85 in custody at Dinajpur District Jail. Jail and hospital officials said Sen's health deteriorated on Saturday morning when he was taken to Dinajpur Medical College Hospital, where he was declared dead minutes later. Jail authorities confirmed his death and said the body would be handed over to the family after legal formalities. In some sports, now Open Masters Games Abu Dhabi 2026 has officially commenced, marking the West Asian region's largest ever mass participation multi-sport event dedicated to athletes aged 30 and above. The 10-day event draws over 25,000 competitors from more than 92 nations. Commonly known as the Abu Dhabi Masters, these games stand out as a truly unique event in the world of master sports. It marks the first ever major Masters multi-sport games to be held in West Asia.
Oh my goodness, Abu Dhabi has been such an incredible experience.
Do you know I have a record for 5.5 minutes with one breath underwater?
There's no age.
Well, that's it for now in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.